Welcome to the first episode of Norse Mythology Masterclass, Unlocking Ancient Secrets. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of Norse mythology by exploring the geography, people, and languages that form the foundation of this ancient belief system, along with an introduction to the runes that hold a special place in Norse culture. Norse mythology is deeply intertwined with the Nordic region of Europe. This expansive area includes the Scandinavian peninsula, the Baltic Sea, the North Atlantic, and even Greenland. Geographically, the Nordic region encompasses Denmark, Finland, Sweden, Norway, Iceland, and Greenland. Each of these regions plays a unique role in the cultural and historical context of Norse mythology. The Germanic-speaking Scandinavians, who are central to our study, were first identified around the year 0 in areas like Denmark, northern Germany, and southern Sweden. Over time, they spread northward along the Norwegian and Swedish coasts. These early Scandinavians were primarily sedentary, living in small villages and farms, with a lifestyle heavily based on farming and fishing. In contrast, the Sami people in northern Scandinavia were nomadic, relying on hunting, fishing, and reindeer herding. There are up to 10 different Sami dialects, corresponding to different ethnic groups among the Sami. During the Viking Age, there was significant interaction between the Sami and the Germanic-speaking Scandinavians, including trade, intermarriage, and cultural exchange. For example, the Sami traded furs and reindeer products, while the Scandinavians offered metalwork and agricultural goods. These exchanges enriched both cultures and led to a blending of traditions and technologies. One fascinating aspect of this relationship was the exchange of spiritual and shamanistic practices, with some Norse myths reflecting Sami influence. However, after the spread of Christianity, the relationship deteriorated, with the Sami being marginalized for their pagan beliefs. The introduction of Christian laws, especially in Norway, cast the Sami as outsiders practicing heretical beliefs. This shift marked a significant change in the cultural landscape of the region. The Sami were often depicted in Christian records as sorcerers or pagans, and their traditional ways of life were increasingly suppressed. Today, there are 5 national languages derived from Old Nordic: Danish, Swedish, Norwegian, Faroes, and Icelandic. These languages are part of the Northern Germanic language family, sharing a common ancestry in Old Nordic and Proto-Germanic. Modern Danish, Norwegian, and Swedish are mutually intelligible, meaning speakers of these languages can generally understand each other. In northern Scandinavia, we also find the Sami languages, which belong to the Finno-Ugric language family. This means Sami is not related to the Germanic languages and is instead closer to Finnish. Despite these linguistic differences, the languages all contribute to the rich tapestry of Nordic culture. The Germanic languages, including Swedish, Danish, Norwegian, English, German, Icelandic, and Dutch, are split into Western and Northern Germanic groups, with Northern Germanic emerging distinctly from the 400s onward. The evolution of these languages reflects the complex history and interactions of the Nordic people. For example, Icelandic has remained relatively unchanged since the Viking Age, allowing modern speakers to read Old Norse texts with ease. In contrast, Danish, Swedish, and Norwegian have evolved significantly, but remain close enough for mutual intelligibility. Runes are an integral part of Norse mythology. One of the most famous myths involving runes is the story of how Odin acquired them. According to the sayings of the High One, Odin hung on a windswept tree for 9 nights, wounded with a spear and deprived of food and drink, to gain the mystical knowledge of the runes. This ritual underscores the significance of runes as symbols of profound wisdom and power. Historically, runes were more than just mystical symbols. They were a practical writing system used throughout Scandinavia. The earliest form, known as the Elder Futhark, had 24 letters and was used from around the 1st century CE until the 700s. This script was carved into various materials, including metal, bone, wood, and stone. The Galahus horn from Denmark, dating to the mid-400s, features an Elder Futhark inscription that reads Ek hlewagastis holtijas horna tawido, meaning E hlewagastis holtijas made this horn. In the Viking Age, the runic alphabet evolved into the Younger Futhark, which had only 16 letters. This version was more practical for carving, but less suited to the phonemes of the Nordic languages. The reduction in the number of letters meant that some runes had to represent multiple sounds, making the Younger Futhark more ambiguous, but easier to carve into hard materials like stone and wood. Meanwhile, in the Anglo-Frisian regions, a distinct version of runes developed and was used well into the 900s. These runes adapted to the sounds of Old English and Old Frisian, showing the adaptability of the runic system across different Germanic languages. During the medieval period, runes continued to be used in Scandinavia, even as the Latin alphabet became more widespread. Thousands of runic inscriptions have been found, indicating that many people were familiar with runes. Archaeological excavations in Bergen, Norway, have revealed numerous runic messages carved on wood or bone from the late 1100s to the late 1300s, showing that runes were used widely in everyday communication. These inscriptions include everything from simple messages like "I love you" to complex legal documents and magical spells. The Codex Runicus, a Danish manuscript from the 1300s, is written entirely in runes and includes the law of Scania and other historical material. This manuscript shows how runes were adapted for more formal and extensive written works, bridging the gap between practical everyday use and more significant legal and historical records. In this first episode of Norse Mythology Masterclass Unlocking Ancient Secrets, we've explored the geographical and cultural foundations of Norse mythology. We've looked at the regions and people that played a role in shaping these ancient beliefs, the languages that evolved from Old Nordic, and the significance of runes in both mystical and practical contexts. Stay tuned for more adventures in the world of the Norse.